Well, I'm delighted to be talking this morning to Kane Pirie, who's the founder, managing director, Big Cheese, whatever title you'd like to put upon him, at Vivid Travel. But a lot of people would know him from his former job at Travel Republic and his courageous take on of the CAA. Good morning, Kane.
Good morning, Graham.
And how are you doing?
I'm okay, thanks, Graham. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Well, let's go crack straight into it, Kane. I think a lot of people are already talking about your campaign of the right to refund. I wonder if you could, for those of us who don't know the detail of it, perhaps you could explain it to us as simpletons in simple terms what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, no, I'd be pleased to do that, Graham. So we all recognise there's a massive problem. We all recognise that coronavirus, aside from being a health pandemic and pretty serious stuff, I mean, people are losing their lives. There's also the reactions to it, the lockdown and the economic fallout from that. And particularly for the travel industry, there's been a lot of media attention on the pubs, and the pubs obviously can't sell beer, but they're not having to refund the last 6 to 12 months worth of beer that they've sold. So there's a particular problem for the travel industry, where on the one hand, the law says you've got to refund within 14 days. On the other hand, the scale of the refunds that the travel industry legally is obligated to process is overwhelming for most businesses. So that's the problem. It's a big problem. As you said at the start, I've got a background in this industry now going back quite some way. And I feel entitled to express an opinion as to how I think that problem should be best solved for the customers so they actually get their money, but also best solved for the travel companies. And I want all travel companies to get through to 2021.
Now, when you started this campaign, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you seem to be fairly insistent on the 14 days. If someone asks for their money, they should get back in 14 days.
Sorry, Graham. No, that was never my position. If you look back, the first article I wrote was for Travel Weekly, and I can remember vividly that in that article I referenced the car MOTs as the example. And I know there's been some variations on the detail as to how you affect it, and we'll perhaps come on to that. But I have been steadfast in advocating a grace period. Everything I've learned over the last few weeks tells me that is the right way to go. Government have done it on the car MOTs. I'm not aware of a single problem with it on car MOTs. Why can't they do it for travel?
Just explain the car MOT thing again.
So, I know it because actually it was relevant to me. So, as I understand it, what they've done is they've said, it's an amnesty. We're setting it aside. For 6 months, don't worry about it. So why can't they say the same about the 14-day rule? For a period of time, and the 31st of July date is a date that we took on advice from ABTA, for a period of time up to, let's stick with that date, the 31st of July, don't worry about the 14 days. It's fine. Go and raise your money, not from your customers, they're not your bank. Go and raise your money from shareholders, go and raise it from banks, look into the new schemes the government has been firing out, raise your money properly, get your house in order, and as long as you've done that, by the end of the grace period, everybody's happy.
Well, that seems a very reasonable position. Why do you think some of the industry has taken such a dislike to what you're trying to achieve?
I think there's probably two reasons, Graham. I think in some cases, there's a little bit of not invented here. I also think that expectations have been raised of longer term finance from customers. And if you look at the detail of the ABTA proposals now, they're talking about travel companies forcing a loan upon their customers, which would extend into 2021. As you know, before Traveller had a background in corporate finance. I think you're also quite familiar with some of these things. There is no justification for a grace period, however it's effective, of that length of time. It's just ethically wrong, fundamentally wrong.
But one of the issues that I perceive from it is that by raising the issue before there's a government agreement or even an ABTA backing, that people have got these 14 days in their mind, and agents and operators alike are having to face consumers who are now very much aware of the 14-day rule and are being forced in positions that they're almost unsustainable, and therefore in some cases their only option is to fold. Isn't that really part of the problem?
I think the 14 days is a disaster. I've never argued for it. David Speakman is the advocate of the 14 days. I'd invite you to speak to David about his position on that. I've exhausted my options in trying to persuade David to come round to its right to refund position. I have never advocated the 14-day rule be held fast. If I've failed to get that message across, I'm sorry. That's never been my position. I'm sure it will still be on the Travel Weekly website.
Nobody wants to go there, Kane.
Sorry?
Nobody wants to go there.
Well, I understand, Graham, I understand. Well, hopefully now it'll be clear on the definitive record of Travel Mole. I've never advocated the 14 days is held. What I did say, and this is perhaps where the confusion comes in, what I did say is don't change the law. And do you know why? Because I thought it would open a Pandora's box. And what's happened? It's opened a Pandora's box. And I mean, I said before that part of the issue was raised expectations. To be more frank, greed has kicked in. Greed has kicked in. Travel companies are thinking, oh, I can have an interest-free loan for my customers for 18 months with ABTA's blessing. And the CAA seems to be mute on the topic. That's great. There's no justification for it, Graham. It doesn't take 18 months to raise finance. Even in a normal market, you've now got the government potentially increasing the security on the loans to 100%. So ABTA, I'm afraid, much as I respect them as an organisation, and particularly some of the senior people within it, have gone down the wrong road and they've taken the industry with them. And I urge them to reconsider. I still believe a grace period is the best way.
Doesn't this just, to a certain extent, expose the rather shaky finances under which the travel industry in the UK has been built up on?
I mean, I've heard that argument, Graham. I've heard it. I'm not sure any industry could cope with, can you refund 6 months of sales? I mean, that's, you know, it's off the scale. It's off the scale. And I empathise with travel companies trying to find a way through this. And I sympathise with them as well, because I think they've been led down the wrong road. And I think there was a better option. I still think there's a better option. And that's what It's Right to Refund is campaigning hard, very hard, to try to persuade government of. I tried in the trade press. I think to the point where some people are sick of my voice. Fair enough. And then I took it to consumer because I wasn't getting anywhere. And that obviously ruffled a few feathers. But what am I to do? This is important to me. This is my industry as well, Graham. And my reputation. I mean, look at some of the comments that customers are making now. They're saying, well, we don't trust the travel industry. We don't trust ATOL. We don't trust the package travel regulations. So I am interested in the customers. I mean, I've been working in shops since I was as a kid in the corner shop at the end of the road. I believe in all the stuff about trust is king. But I also want my reputation, my business reputation to remain intact. And I want my business to flourish as it deserves to flourish.
I mean, a cynic would say part of this campaign of yours actually is self-interest with Vivid Travel, that you would be seen to be the good guys, and therefore come this 2021 bumper season that you're predicting, we'll go into that in a second, that Vivid Travel will do very nicely, thank you.
So we're the good guys. Why are we the good guys?
Because you're saying that we want to give money back, that we're the trusted company to come with.
Can I put that another way?
Yeah.
We're following the law. So I'm astonished. I've described it as a bonfire of brands, businesses and trust. I think it's collective insanity. And I don't want to go with it. So that makes me stand out. But that's not because I've moved. I'm staying put. And I'm not alone as well. Trailfinders and Cooni, and there's other companies as well. They're also doing the same thing. So I've not moved, Graham. I'm not seeking publicity for myself or seeking publicity for Vivid Travel. This is something that is very close to my heart in terms of fair treatment for the customers and the travel industry not destroying itself. I mean, how as an industry, who are we going to sell to if nobody in the UK trusts us? I think the answer is we're not.
Well, you could argue that in 2021, if your predictions are right, it's going to be a seller's market. So many travel companies will do well if they've survived. But having opened Pandora's box with this right to refund campaign, it has seemed to have, in lots of areas of the industry, it's all for one, one for all, and this seems to have caused somewhat of a split.
Well, I don't think I've opened Pandora's box. I think ABTA advocating a change in the law has opened Pandora's box, because then people get greedy and they want to change it in ways that are going to suit themselves. So I don't think I've done that. I think I've ruffled feathers. I've put the cat amongst the pigeons. It's been suggested that I've stirred up the customers. You can look on Twitter yourself. I mean, they find that laughable. The consumers are watching. They're on Travel Mole, they're on Travel Weekly, they're on TTG, and they are appalled. Look at the consumer comments. They're appalled, and they don't find the sort of snide remarks against me particularly edifying. People bring up the CAA case, and they're trying to make out, oh well, you had your knuckles wrapped by the CAA. That was a comment actually on the Times yesterday. It's still there if you want to look. And if you remember, I didn't get my knuckles wrapped by the CAA. I'm sure you do remember, Graham. I stood up for the law then, and I was right, and that was upheld in the courts. So I think some of the people criticising me personally and the position of its right to refund and coincidentally the position of Vivid Travel, I think they're on ice so thin, I would call it water. So I'm the baddie because I'm following the law, and I'm advocating we all follow the law, and I'm advocating a path through for the industry and customers. Well, I don't see how that justifies any of the comments that have been directed in my way.
Fair enough. Well, let's move on to some of the other comments you've made in your article. One is a prediction of a bumper season in 2021, which is built around trust. But maybe we talk about why you feel so confident that 2021 will be a bumper year for the travel industry.
I try to be optimistic. I think in the middle of a crisis, people lose track of time a bit. I don't think we'll be talking about coronavirus in 12 months' time. I don't think we'll be talking about coronavirus in 6 months' time. I think there will be a vaccine out before the end of the year. We're already seeing inquiries and bookings coming in, not in big numbers, but there's a pulse. There's a pulse in the market. People I speak to are frustrated their plans were disrupted this year. They're getting towards the end of their patience with lockdown, and provided customers trust us to stick to the terms on which we sell our product, which is another way of boiling this down, they'll book big time. It'll be like a double market.
If the weather continues like this and we continue on lockdown, no one will want to go on holiday, will they?
This year or next year?
This year. If it continues like this, they won't want to go next year either. But you have a theory of why, to do with, it is related to coronavirus, the very fact that I'm talking to you over this rather than face to face down a coffee shop or down the pub or something. That has an influence, you think, on the way that people will increase their holidays?
Massively, absolutely massively. I think there's an extra step to take. I think it's been widely accepted that much as women didn't go back to not working after the Second World War, then I don't think people are going to go back to the office 5 days a week. I don't see it. The genie's out the bottle. We don't need to do it. It's not nice. I've been commuting from Chichester to London. Horrible. So there's going to be a big shift, massive shift in how much commuting goes on. And so I think people have already got there on that. They've got there on I can work from home. But what if you take it a step further? What if you say, I could work from South Africa? What if I could take my family to South Africa for 4 weeks, and I could work a couple of weeks and join in part of the trips for a couple of weeks? That for me would be a dream ticket. So I think there's going to be a big growth in combined work and holidays.
Do you think that, therefore, that what you're implying is that as far as business travel is concerned, that will take a bit of a dive because of the genie is out of the bottle, as you quite rightly say, and that leisure travel will take a big leap?
That would be my prediction, yeah, correct.
Well, it's nice to know, because we've been doing this working from home business for about 20 years. It's only with the advent of technology like Zoom, which we've actually been using for about 18 months to a year, that people are able to do it. So as far... Go ahead.
I was going to say, Graham, I was... Sorry. Apologies for that.
There's another booking coming in, was it?
I was slow on this myself on the homeworking. I've not been a big fan of homeworking. I've always had a bias towards a conventional office. No, this is better. I'm getting more work done from a non-office base than I was when I was wasting time commuting. So it's been an eye-opener for me, it really has.
And I think you made the point in your article, or if you didn't, I'll make it, is that, from an environmental point of view, it will be better. It will take stress off our creaky transport infrastructure. And it makes for a more pleasant life, doesn't it? The quality of life, you'd be able to spend more time with your family, down the pub, playing golf, whatever you want to do, rather than sitting on a train or in a car going up to London every day.
I really think it's very exciting, Graham. I think there could be massive knock-on benefits in terms of at least slowing the pace of climate change. I think we'll all be able to breathe better air. I don't know if you've noticed, but the stars are beautiful. You can see the difference in the night sky. As you know, I've also spoken out in the past on mental health, which is another area I find very interesting, and I think it'll be a lot better for people's mental health. So, as I said at the very start, I'm cognizant that there's people in hospital. I'm cognizant that people have lost their lives from this horrible disease, but I can also see ways in which this whole sort of trauma that the world is going through will lead to massive change, and some of those changes will be good.
And do you think that, and you may have seen it if you've had inquiries and you've had conversations with potential clients, or even clients who've got existing bookings who might want to postpone and maybe move, a change in what they want? I've seen some research from some of the first areas that have recovered from coronavirus in China, and there has been quite a dramatic change in people's desires. They want to go on road trips, they want to go to see wildlife, they want to be in the countryside, they want to see much more authentic local stuff rather than necessarily lie on a beach for 14 days and cook and eat eat British food while you're overseas. They want to experience life a bit more. Have you noticed any of that yet, or is that too early to say?
The honest answer is I haven't noticed that. The inquiries and the bookings that we're now doing are very much typical for Vivid Travel, but equally they're very much exactly what you just described. So we probably wouldn't see it because we don't. The amount of beach holidays we do is kind of negligible. So that trend towards more exciting, really bespoke, experience-packed, a trip that is just for you and your party, designed from scratch. That trend has been running for a number of years, and I certainly don't see any of this slowing that down. And perhaps you're right; it'll actually accelerate it.
I suppose the real question is, will it affect the mass markets? The Spain, the Greece, Turkey, and so on. Whether people will start to alter their desires, their wants and needs on those types of market, as opposed to the more upmarket bespoke holidays that you're purveying.
My prediction, my prediction for 2021 is, with one condition, it'll be a great market across the board. As you know, I used to run Travel Republic. People were predict, and people are always predicting the death of beach holidays, and I think there is a shift, a slow shift over time as more people want to do more fun stuff, but there's a massive beach market. So the one condition is trust. If we as an industry say to customers, we're not trustworthy, we're like, if we mentally get them to put us in the same lowly spot in their minds as the bankers, rightly or wrongly, untrustworthy people, none of us will be able to sell anything, Graham. People don't buy from people they don't trust.
But that's a situation that a lot of people, in the travel industry inherited for a long time because of the, we get ripped off during school holidays. I get dumped at an airport in the middle of nowhere and there's no one to pick me up. Those stories are legend. And everybody, if you go down the pub and people talk about that, they tend to talk about the negative. But that's something you would have inherited anyway, isn't it? And particularly from when you're talking about a mass market purveyor such as Travel Republic, those are the things that must have been an everyday occurrence for you.
But you're right. There's a certain monotony to the annual news, and there'll be a rainy day early in the year, and people will be talking about, it's amazing it rained, and there's a load of bookings. There'll be something about a heat wave. There'll be, there's a pattern of stories that comes around. You're right. What I'm talking about is a fundamentally different league. So there are people in the country now who are anxious that their homes are going to be repossessed because travel companies are holding on to their money unfairly. This is a totally different league to, I think you charged me 10% more because it was school holidays. This is, you're putting my home, my family home at risk because you won't pay me the money that you owe me. I mean, how would that make you feel, Graham?
No, I understand completely. If I've paid for something I'm not going to use and I'm not going to want, and it's likely to be cancelled anyway, I'll have my money back now, please. And I'm happy to have it back. If you're going to guarantee, I'm happy to have it back by July the 31st. However, do you not think that, to a certain extent, that horse has already bolted? That the travel industry is already seen as something that's untrustworthy. If you add all of the things together, it's seen as untrustworthy. The service levels at certain areas can be poor. Airports queuing up, Flybe going down, et cetera, et cetera. It's not all like that. I understand that, and people will still go on holiday because the UK market seems more resilient than any other in the world.
Well, I agree with you. I think we've discussed it in the past. I think it looks to me like a lot of care and thought has gone into making the flying experience as awful as possible, particularly trying to get to the airport, park at the airport, through the airport and onto the plane. It feels like an obstacle course. So I agree with you. There's been an incredible resilience over the years, but this is different level. This is different level there. And people have to understand, some of the people in the travel industry are talking, and honestly, Graham, it makes me think that they've never had personal financial distress. They've never known what it's like to actually be up against it yourself, which I have. It's a long way back, but I remember it. You never forget that if you've been through it. And if you're in personal financial distress, and we all know a lot of people stretch themselves for holidays, it tends to be a big ticket item. Mm-hmm. And you're thinking, I've got people banging on my door for money. I might have to pawn some assets to get hold of some cash. I'm not sure I can keep the mortgage going. Where am I going to live with my partner and my children? Oh yeah, and by the way, there's a company that owes me 20 grand for that trip because I was doing fine before. And people's circumstances have changed a lot through the effects of coronavirus. As you know, people have stock market crashed, jobs lost, businesses stalled. So there's some people that have booked, with some very high-end holidays, and now they need that money. They really need that money. And their sympathy for the travel companies saying, well, I might go under. I've got problems. I can't give you the money. Their sympathy for that argument, particularly when they look at company accounts and see, £100 million in money flying out to private equity houses, or in total with other finance costs, particularly when they look at things like that, they are seething. And the notion that they're seething because of anything I've done or said is a joke. What could I say to wind that person up beyond the level of anger they're going to have already?
No, I understand. I think everybody's sympathetic to that cause. I think what the issue, to a certain extent, is that, as I've said before, it's a difficult situation. Pandora's box has been open. You could argue that an awful lot of people are doing okay, actually. You know, they're getting 80% of their salary. They've got mortgage honeymoon. They're not having to travel up to London every day. They're not having to go out, and they're not going out down the pub. They're not going to restaurants. In fact, they're saving money, which could pay for some of this bumper 2021 that you're talking about.
Yeah, but I think we've now got 11,500 consumers signed up to its right to refund, and what we said to those consumers is, despite the insult of people not answering your phones, calls, or your emails, or people trying to tell you that a credit refund note is actually a refund. No, it's not. I mean, that's not the case in the package travel regulations. It's not the case in the package travel directive. Despite all that, I bobbed up and said, just put that to one side. Could you lend them the money to the end of July? Would that be all right? And 11,500 people have said, yeah, go on. But I want it back then. And what people in the industry have to understand is the difference between July this year or August or September, let alone 2021, for a lot of people, like you say, Graham, they can probably carry it. But for a lot of people, they can't. And for those people, they're going to go nuts. I mean, the ABTA proposal will not fly. I mean, never mind legal challenges to it, the public will not stomach it. And even if the government go ahead with it, they'll end up backing down because the people won't stomach it.
At the end of the day, the survivors will be the good guys, won't they? The guys that are trustworthy. There will be operators, agents, airlines possibly, that won't play the game, that won't play it as well as you do. You want the industry to. But come 2021, the consumer will be savvy enough to realise who's actually played the game correctly and who hasn't. Yeah,
but if I had a choice, so let's imagine I've got a choice between the industry carry on doing what it's doing, give me a good panning online whenever we get the chance, a load of made-up nonsense. They stick to their guns, the government backs them, they chuck out these credit refund notes, they make the customers wait a year for their money, and they all get through, and we're all in 2021. Or a scenario where that doesn't happen, there's some kind of Armageddon, they all go bust, and there's just me in 2021. Or the scenario where there's that grace period, and actually everybody gets through, and everybody gets through with reputations patched up as best they can be from this point onwards. The option I want is the option where all the companies get through, as much reputation as possible is salvaged, and I'm confident in Vivid, and I'm confident in the team I've got in that business, Graham. Vivid will work. Yeah, I mean, I didn't make Travel Republic a success because the competition all blew up. So people don't need to worry about Vivid, and people don't need to imagine I think I put it in one article, they're trying to paint me some kind of James Bond villain, with like the white cat, and I've got this sort of master plan for the industry. I mean, there's no white cat, and I don't have a master plan for the industry other than please reconsider, please think about a grace period, and actually, if some of the industry swung round, and some of them are doing, I think, and we'll probably have more announcements this week, but if the industry swung round and got behind it, I think we could get a good outcome for everybody.
Good. Well, we've been talking for some while. I know you're a busy man with all these inquiries coming in and a campaign to run.
We're not flooded. We could do some more, Graham, if you're thinking of 21.
I am. Of course, I'm thinking of 2021, but I've actually got a ticket to go to Chicago in September, so I'm more interested in that at the moment.
But we could do a nice little tour around it.
Yes, well, I am going to do a little Great Lakes tour across to Detroit, assuming that we can do it. Me and my pals, we're going on a music sojourn, so that's good.
Good.
But I'd like to thank you, Kane, very much for your time. I wish you best of luck with your challenges, your right to refund campaign. I hope it all works out correctly for the industry, and maybe we can have a chat again in 3 or 4 months' time and see how it's going.
Sure, anytime, Graham.
Cheers, mate. See you soon.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Bye.